After spending 72 hours with the brand new iPhone 16 Pro Max and Apple Watch Series 10, I've decided to return one of them. Now over the weekend, I took the iPhone filming at a skate park, tested 4K 120, and we'll get into that, plus camera control. And for the Apple Watch, I wore it swimming, did some sleep tracking, and tried some of the new faces. And while a lot of people say the Apple event was underwhelming, I think there are significant upgrades to both of these devices, but they also fall short in some areas too. Let's start with the iPhone. One of the reasons why I went with the iPhone 15 Pro Max last year, this is that blue titanium, is because of the 5x camera. And this year, both the Pro and Pro Max are on feature parity. You can get that 5x telephoto with whatever size you get. But I still chose to go with the larger Pro Max for hopefully longer battery life. I'll be doing a lot of filming with it. And of course, I film the screen a lot whether I'm doing shortcuts or tutorials, so I thought the bigger screen would help. Now, the first time I saw the Desert Titanium, the new color this year, was when I unboxed it live on the channel. I'll link that video below. And honestly, from the first time I saw it, I am loving the Desert Titanium. I know a lot of people went with the natural titanium again this year, but I'm a big fan of this Desert Titanium. Yes, it looks a little gold. I don't think it's rose gold-ish. I never had a gold phone before, but I think the phone looks great, just natural without a case. And when you put it in different colors, I think the camera bump looks really nice with that Desert Titanium shining through. This is Apple's Lake Green Silicone, and I'm also getting a ton of cases in the mail this week from accessory makers. Like last year, I'm going to be doing a huge roundup on leather cases, especially focusing on this camera control button. This is the Muho green leather case, and like I said, I think it looks great in a lot of different color varieties. Just to give you a few other cases, this is the Stone Gray Apple Silicone case. This is Ondar's green leather case. I really like how this looks, plus there's a larger cutout for the camera control, and that is a key function of cases this year. And for the first time, Beats is also making iPhone cases. If you didn't know, Beats was actually owned by Apple. They bought it several years ago. The Beats case is one of the few that has the capacitive button on the outside of the case, and it has an open bottom if you like that style as well. It is a hard plastic, and you have the MagSafe ring design on the back. I'm not sure why. If you like hard plastic cases, I guess it's nice, but this is also something I'm going to be returning. I'm going to go with a leather case again this year. Now, one thing I was a little concerned about is the Pro Max is already a big phone, and as you can see, the 16 Pro Max from this year actually gets even bigger. It is taller than last year's 15 Pro Max, a hair wider, and I will say after using it for a few days, I do feel the difference. It feels like a larger phone. It is getting to that surfboard category, and trying to rest it on your pinky while typing, it can get a little cumbersome. A lot of times I have to go with using it with two hands. We'll see if I continue doing Pro Max next year as long as there's feature parity, but this is a big phone, just so you know. One of the other improvements year over year were the bezels. Not only does the 16 Pro Max have a slightly larger screen due to the size, but also the bezels have gotten smaller. You can see here side by side. Now when it comes to the camera, I think this is the most significant improvement year over year. Not necessarily camera control, but just the camera itself. One of the bigger new features is 4K 120. You can do that filming in just kind of regular HDR mode, and you can also do 4K at 120 in ProRes, but you do need to have an external SSD if you want to film at that higher frame rate in ProRes. Now, I did a lot of testing and built this entire camera rig to film ProRes 4K 120, and so I have some thoughts on that, but get subscribed because I'm going to talk about this setup and some of the challenges of filming to external SSDs at that higher frame rate. But I did bring it to the skate park, filmed my kids doing some tricks, and 4K 120 looks great. If you're going to use your iPhone for cinematic filming, that's a big upgrade, being able to get that higher resolution at higher frame rate. The other big upgrade on the 16 Pro and Pro Max is that ultra-wide camera has gone up to a 48 megapixel sensor. So if you're doing macro mode, you'll see a huge difference. You get great image quality that way, or if you just want to do ultra-wide landscapes. If you want some awesome examples of what this camera can do, Austin Mann, he's a travel photographer and videographer. He has an amazing review. I'll link it below, but he gets incredible footage and photos from both the ultra-wide camera and the other lenses on it as well. So early impressions on the camera, 2 thumbs up. Images and photos look great. Now what about camera control? So like last year with the action button, Apple has added camera control, which is on the Pro phones and the regular phones. Click it once and you can quickly open the camera, click it again to take a picture, but then there's also lots of features under a light press. You can light press and now adjust things like the tone mapping, or light double press and actually switch between some of the tools. You can even swipe between the lenses like 2x or 5x. Lots of different swipe controls, and I'm going to do a whole video going in depth on everything you can do with camera control, but to be honest, I found camera control a little finicky. Now the first thing I would recommend doing is going into the settings, and if you have any model iPhone 16, then go to accessibility, and if you scroll down, you'll see an entire option for camera control. Here, if you're not crazy about the swipe gestures, you can actually just turn those off entirely, and also turn off the light press. Then the camera control button just becomes a shutter button. You don't have to think about light press or firm press. Just click it to open the camera, click it to take a picture, and you don't have to mess with any of the swipe gestures. But if you do want to practice those light presses and swipes, you can change how sensitive that button is, either going to a lighter touch or firmer, and also adjusting the double light press speed. And that's actually how you access those multiple controls. Double light press, and then you go to that control menu. Like I mentioned, get subscribed. I'm going to do a whole video on those controls, but overall, I haven't found a lot of use for it. When I'm kind of in the heat of the moment switching between controls, I mean, my lenses are right here. I have lots of controls up here, like the tone. I can go to Pro RAW for photos and even ProRes for video. So I've not been using the camera control a whole lot. And if you're going to use a rig like this is the Moment camera cage with the MagSafe connector. I'll link this down in the video description. The camera control suddenly becomes even less useful. I mean, it's hard to get to, and you risk like popping your phone off of this. But one of the other features unique to the 16 Pro and Pro Max is the tone mapping for photos. Here you have this little D-pad come up, and here you can change the color and tone of the photos to increase some of the shadow and contrast, get a less processed look out of your iPhone camera. There's also the different photographic styles, both colors, standard, vibrant, and you can adjust the tone mapping per style. I'll go into all these modes in my camera control video, but I've actually been turning down the tone to about -60, and I feel I actually get more natural looking photos with better shadows and highlights. So just try adjusting that and see how you like those photos. And of course, you can always change the photographic styles after the fact. That's one of the newer features of the 16 and 16 Pro. And two other quick camera settings, there's now an option to shoot in JPEG-XL. So if you go to the camera settings here on your 16, go down to Formats, under the Pro RAW and Resolution, again, these are on the Pro phones only, you can now film in JPEG-XL, lossless and lossly. This is going to save some storage space on your phone and still give you high quality Pro RAW photos. So if you're interested in that, I would try out some of those JPEG-XL settings. And one setting that is now missing from the 16 Pro and Pro Max is ProRes video in SDR. That's actually what I shot a lot of my B-roll in on my 15 Pro Max. And for some reason, when I go to Formats and go to ProRes, it's just not there. There's HDR and log on the 15 and 16, but for some reason, SDR is now gone from the 16 Pro phones. I don't know why. That was my preferred ProRes format. So Apple, if you're watching, can we bring that back? But overall, I'm liking the 16 Pro Max. The Desert Titanium looks great, and some of the new camera features are really intriguing, and I'm getting some great photos and videos, which I do think is a significant upgrade from the 15 Pro. But what about Apple Watch Series 10? So I was a stainless steel Apple Watch Series guy right up until they started doing titanium Apple Watches, did a few models of those. And then once the Ultra launched, I quickly jumped on it. The larger screen size, titanium finish, plus features like dual GPS, better microphones, the Ultra was a huge step up from the series models. Now, I'm not a super adventurer, but I have taken it on a couple hikes and did some videos on the Ultra. I'll link those down below, and specifically on the Apple Watch Ultra 2, which is unchanged this year. So if you get an Ultra 2 today, it's the exact same as it was a year ago, except for the black satin color. So I'll link my Ultra 2 video above. But it is a chunky watch, and because I'm not an adventurer, I thought maybe I'll go to the Series 10. For a couple reasons. One, the screen size is actually the same as the Ultra now. It just has that curved display, which I actually really like the look of. And we have a new polished titanium, which is very reminiscent of the older stainless steel models, which Apple doesn't do steel anymore. Everything's titanium, which does make it lighter. This is the natural titanium polished. And honestly, in person, it looks great. I love the shininess. You can really dress it up. And the other physical difference is the Apple Watch Series 10 is thin. Look how much thinner that is from the Ultra 2. And this is even thinner than the Series 9 last year. So being so thin, so light, polished titanium, I had to try it. And not only is that display larger, but it's even better off-axis. Apple improved the display, so when you're glancing down at your wrist and you're not looking at it directly, you do get slightly better visibility at those off angles. Apple also changed the refresh rate so you can now have second hands on your watch faces. And this is one of the new watch faces with that second ticking filling up the screen. That's really cool. And you also get a legitimate second hand on the Reflections watch face. So the display itself is great, but a couple things coming from the Ultra that I immediately missed. The digital crown, I forgot how small it was on the normal series watches. You can see on the Ultra, the digital crown is much larger, and after using it for 2 years, I found myself missing that larger crown size. This almost looked a little too small for me. I do have big wrists, and that has something to do with it, but I prefer the larger crown. You also don't get the action button, which you can even program to shortcuts. I have an entire video on Apple Watch shortcuts for the action button. You can check that out above. And one of the newer features is you can actually play music and podcast directly out of the speaker on the Series 10, but that feature also came to the Ultra 2 with watchOS 11. So pretty much feature parity between these two. Except you don't get all the watch faces. One of my go-to watch faces for the Ultra is the modular Ultra face. I like having the large weather widget in the middle, plus 6 small app icons around. Plus I still get the time. You can't get that watch face on the Series 10. And this was one of my favorites. And even though I don't use it very often, the blood oxygen sensor is disabled on all of these Series 10 and Ultra watches you buy today. I bought this Apple Watch Ultra 2 before Apple ran into that whole issue with Massimo and the blood oxygen sensor, so my blood oxygen sensor is still active on my Ultra 2 right here. But the biggest difference between the Ultra watches and Series 10 is the battery life. I have been so used to the battery life on the Ultra, which is to say, never thinking about it. As a quick example, I actually wore both watches while I was sleeping last night to do sleep tracking, and you could see the difference. After 7+ hours of sleep, the Ultra 2 is still at 78% battery, while the Series 10 went down to 61%. And that was with the screen off the whole time. Now, it is 3 days after setting this up, so it might be trying to do some stuff in the background, but this Ultra 2, which has been off the charger for a couple hours, is still at 100%. You just cannot beat the Ultra's battery life. I do wear my Apple Watch to sleep for sleep tracking and will typically throw it on the charger just for 30 to 40 minutes before I go to sleep at night. And the Ultra 2 usually charges up to 100% at that time and rarely falls below 60 or 70% during the day, even if I do an outdoor walk. That battery life, never having to think about it on a watch, is a huge deal, especially when traveling. The new Apple Watch Series 10, it does charge fast, and if you use Apple's dedicated puck that comes with the watch, it will charge even faster than previous Apple Watches. But all the 3-in-1 chargers I have around don't take advantage of that faster charging just yet, and just having to think this much about the battery on the Series 10, I just don't think I want to do that. So which am I returning? Well, when it comes to the 16 Pro Max and the Apple Watch Series 10, I'm returning the Apple Watch Series 10. It's a great device. I love the look of the polished titanium. The new watch faces look great on it. I miss that curved display look. I think that looks great too. But actually missing that modular Ultra watch face and just having to think about battery life now using this watch, I just don't think it's worth the trade-off for me. Now, when I go return this one in the store, I am going to look at the black satin model of the Ultra 2 and see if that tempts me. But otherwise, I'm probably just going to keep my Ultra 2, wait till Apple eventually releases an Ultra 3 with new features, and jump to that. The battery life is just that good on the Ultra watches. And as I mentioned before, get subscribed to the channel because I'm going to be doing massive case reviews, accessories for the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and everything I'm going to be using to build an iPhone cage if you're going to be doing ProRes and that 4K 120 on the new 16 Pro Max. Hit that like button before you go. If you have any questions, leave comments below this video. And if you want to see my review of the Apple Watch Ultra 2 taking it out on a hike, doing the whole waypoint and all those other features, you can check that video out right up here. And if you want to learn about all the features in iOS 18 that are on your iPhone right now, check out this video right here where I go over 95+ new features that came with iOS 18. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.